That's how we start, Lynette. Welcome to Keeping It Kissel. That's it. Just simple. Welcome, everybody, back to the podcast. Oh, this is awkward. I got to put this. One of these days, you're right. We are going to get a guitar stand.
Yep.
And learn how to be professional.
Yep.
There we go. Like that.
It gets better every time.
This is very exciting. Everybody listening, our Keeping It Kissel podcast, I don't think would be what it is in our relationship and who we are. We wouldn't be who we are, especially on this journey, if it wasn't for Lynette. And that's why we're so proud that we've got you as our special guest, our very first guest. And I think the most important guest, the best way to start this whole thing is with you, Lynette, our spiritual coach, our life coach, our dear friend.
Our spiritual life coach.
Yes. Yeah. Our spiritual life coach is the best way to describe it.
Yes.
I know that you had a chance meeting with Cecilia, which we'll get into, but we've now been open to the universe thanks to you. And now
really tapping into and learning what that even is.
Yes.
And how that applies to us.
It's no coincidence that you came into our lives when we needed you the most. And now anybody listening, we hope that you can help them if they're open to it, and maybe we can share a bit of our journey.
Or
if
ultimately
that's okay.
learn from our experience.
So exactly. Lynette, thank you for
being here,
joining us today. It means a lot to us.
Thank you. It means a lot being here.
Yeah.
One of the things I like to ask my clients when I start to work with them is, are you honored by the company you keep, what you eat, and where you sleep? And I have to say, thank you so much. I really am.
We're very excited. I'm also a little bit nervous because of all the help and the coaches that I've had in my career and life. No one has been able to do what you do or get to, get to me. And that's it's a very, very interesting thing on a personal level, but
it's a whole another level of vulnerability.
For
right?
sure.
So there's like, we talked about this earlier, that when Brett and I first were engaged in planning our wedding, that it was mandatory for us to see I guess it would have been
it would have been I think a therapist.
Yeah,
or,
it was marriage counseling.
Yes.
Yeah, and so and that's common. Like, we have a lot of friends who have done, who do that. If you want to get married through a church or under a certain minister, then you have to do these things. And it's insightful. Like, you do the little quiz that they give you, and then they try to, it's funny. It's almost set up to challenge you, to challenge each other's views, or to challenge you in a way that now you have to, they have support for you to work through it and process it and whatever. Our first year of marriage was one of our hardest, if not the hardest. And so we continued going after that because we just saw the value, and decided that it's better to talk about things and talk things through. Fast forward, however many years later, we continued going for 7 years, and we learned to communicate a lot better. But now we're at this point in our lives, we found we're, okay, great. We communicate, we share our feelings and these kinds of things, but we want more. And
we needed more. We needed a new layer that was
and
us
a
personally,
deeper
and that's
level.
where you
so as much
in.
as and as much as we loved that experience and it served us for that time, we found that typically traditional therapy, and I'm not gonna slight it because it's incredible and it was an incredible tool. If that's where you are in your life, get the help, talk to people, never stop talking, never stop communicating. But for us, it got to a point where now we needed tips and tools. Now we needed tools how to solve those problems. What are the solutions to those problems? Okay, so we've aired our grievances. How do we fix that?
So yeah, tips and tools for balancing thoughts. And I want to speak to something that you both just mentioned about the work that you did before. I think it's really important for us to recognize that what we really are is continuously expanding beings.
Yes.
And that the work that you did was necessary to get you where you are now. And a lot of the people that I work with will reach a new crisis point thinking that everything that they'd done prior to that was a waste of time, and it's not.
Building blocks.
Right. It got you where you are now. Let's reevaluate where we are now and grow from there. Yeah. And when we're ready to do that, and there's two components that have to be present, we have to be both ready and willing.
Yeah.
And I want to throw in a big dose of courage as well.
right.
Absolutely.
Because you really do have to be courageous to work with me. You both know that you got to be willing to go to that next level of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So
and for people who might not be willing or might not be ready to dive as deep into spiritual life teaching, life coach, for us, as far as mental health goes, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that it is a growing issue, and that never be afraid to get help and ask for help and step out. Taking one step in that direction to better yourself within your mind is massive.
Well, yeah, and I think what we're seeing, and it's really, really obvious now, is that humanity is growing in a way like it never has before.
Yeah.
And it's time for us to really step into the truth of who and what we are.
Yeah.
Not what we've been told by the outside subjective reality for so many centuries, but to truly step into our power. And that is the focus of my work, for us to step into that truth.
And that's been a massive part of our journey with you, is self-empowerment. And self-unity, uniting with yourself.
Yeah,
It's imperative.
If
imperative.
Possible. I don't know why I got this frog in my throat. Sorry, everybody.
Would you like a haul?
No, I think I'm okay. But
It's Alberta.
I'd like to just take a moment and go to the beginning, Lynette, for everybody that's listening and everybody that's watching. You work by attraction and by referral. Only. Not promotion. No website, no anything. People find you and you find them all at the same time. It's a very unique.
We all can't stop talking about you, and so
situation.
It goes.
To me, but as an oracle, as a life coach, as a spiritual leader, I know that you were born to do this. This is your calling. This is who you are. Can you, to give all of our listeners and followers, maybe just a quick, I don't know how to say this, Lynette, because you've done so much, you've lived so much. Can you maybe just describe really who you are? Because I would like to do that, but I don't want to not give you the credit or truly explain who you are and what you do. So I want to know if I could give you that platform right now.
Well, the first thing I have to say is,
and then we'll dive into it.
I can't take credit. And the second thing that I would like to say is that I'm not the only one here doing the work right now that I am doing. We are not common. You won't find us in the matrix, as I refer to it as. And that I would have to say the gifts that I've been given, that I am privileged to share with other people, are tremendous signs, validation that we are not alone, and that the divine source, however you choose to see it, and I don't care.
Like divine source, like you're talking if you believe
the creative
in God,
source,
or if you believe in
whatever you want to call it. Okay,
Universe.
let's just get it really simple. The source of all that is, however you choose to see it. I say all roads lead to Rome. Nobody finishes this race till we all finish this race. So as we all recognize now, humanity is going through the greatest changes it's ever seen. And the divine source is fully aware of that. So we have been blessed with many different forms of guides and support. And I'm not sure I'd call myself a spiritual leader, but a guide, perhaps.
Yeah, an incredible guide.
Again, we don't want to create separation. Nobody's special. I would certainly not call myself special. Special leads to separation. But I would say that I am deeply honored and humbled by the gifts that I've been given, and deeply appreciate the ability to share and see the results. Because there really is only one of us here. And when we come to understand that, as you guys know, my tips and tools, when in line with divine, everything goes with an ease and a flow.
Yeah.
So does that help you
very
clarify
much
a little bit?
So. And I've always thought, when trying to explain who you are to me and who you've been to us, so in trying to describe that, I try to put it into it's kind of simplistic terms, that the work that you've done for us almost can't be explained. You just have to see. You just have to know us.
And I would say the work she's done with us, because we've actually done the work.
Oh yeah, there's no way I'm taking credit.
Yeah. And so I'll
lead
like
you up to
Lynette
the cliff
will guide us
you
there.
jump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She will guide us there, and it's our job to jump.
Yeah.
And so I think even a huge part of it to dive in, as far as something I realized significantly, especially with the empowerment part, was how much this self-unity, actually that singular focus on just me and my needs contributed to us.
Yes.
That was, kind of the heartbeat of, actually, in order to clean this up, I need to clean this up.
Right. You can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to recognize that we don't want to criticize anyone for the experience that we've had, where we've been. All of that's been essential. Everything that we are right now is the sum total of what we've been. And again, it's critical that we recognize that. And also, not everybody's ready to take that inner journey. And again, we don't want to compare and compete. There's no separation here. It's just when you're ready, you're motivated internally. And at that point, a level of courage develops, a level of clarity that comes through is your inspiration, is that which moves you through. And it's not uncommon. In fact, I would have to say in most cases, I would call myself the last house on the block. And it's not because, I'm so special. And again, I've said there's others that are doing this kind of work. There's not that many of us, but there are others. It's really important to understand that we're all at different levels of development, and that to go forward and do this, you just need to be at that level. And I always go with my tips and tools for balancing thoughts. Nobody finishes this race till we all finish this race. And one of the ways that I like to describe it is, if you're in grade 10 and you know how to do grade 10 math, you're not about to judge somebody in grade 3 because they haven't got that ability yet.
Yeah. Right.
So it's really important that we don't form any ideas around, special or elite. It's everything is acting out just the way it's meant to be. We are being guided and supported in ways that we as a species haven't come to know yet. And we are now starting to experience that. And that is why, if we should call me a kind, my kind has come to take humanity to the next level. And it is to go in, no longer seeing our power as an external journey, but going in. And when we start to tap into the truth of who and what we are, everything starts to change, because it's like the difference between a key that's designed to fit the lock and a key that doesn't. And a lot of us, most of us, well, I'd have to say all of us at one point or another, we've been given false keys and we wonder why they don't fit.
Right.
And then we criticize ourselves.
Right.
So you take you guys, for example, you did a lot of work before you came to me, and that was evident. That was very evident. But if you hadn't had that to build on and keep going, you wouldn't be where you are now.
Right.
So everything is as it should be.
Well, there's a lot of people that I think, from an outsider's perspective, looking into Cecilia and I, think that we've really got it together. We've got our shit together. We've got this family. We've got this life, and everything is great. There's a lot of elements of the way that we live and what we do that is great, that I'm very proud of and I'm very thankful for. But we talked a little bit about our first year of marriage being extremely difficult, based on so many different factors, internal and external, as well as the last year that we had.
Yeah. So I think
2019.
I think marriage-wise, I think there's a large misconception that, you live together and marriage license is not going to change any of that. Well, something shifts. It did for us, doesn't for everyone, but taking a poll, it often does. And it's kind of, there's a power struggle. There's a
it's a natural evolution.
Totally.
And I would have to say that I've never met a married couple, and I've been married a couple of times myself. I've never met a married couple that managed to stay together without overcoming the challenges. And again, one of my favorite tips and tools is don't waste a good crisis. And we need to understand that without the crisis, without the challenge, we can't evolve. So if we can start to change our perspective about what the challenge really is and not form resistance around it and begin to embrace it and work with it like you guys have, then we can move to the next level. But if you don't have a challenge, if everything's tickety-boo, well, then, everything's tickety-boo. But we didn't come here to experience tickety-boo.
Yes.
We came here to master energy and emotion. And I would call marriage one of the final frontiers.
So last night I actually said, I was like, I'm ready to grow. I kind of said that. And as it came out of my mouth, I said, never mind, no more challenges, please.
And I laugh. Ha, 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 ha. Yeah. Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
We're constantly evolving.
It's how you grow, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I think it's imperative that we see this as not a problem, but as an opportunity.
Yes.
At that massive birthday party that you guys had, there was a really beautiful young boy that said he'd had a math test. And he got 6 wrong out of 46. And I said, no, you didn't get 6 wrong. I said, you have 6 more opportunities to grow and to learn. Right. Yeah. So we need to stop criticizing ourselves for our challenges.
Yeah. Since we've started working together, anytime there's a major crisis or chaos happening in the midst of it, instead of feeling like pity party, woe is me, I instantly think, okay, what am I supposed to be learning from this that I don't have in my back pocket?
Which that is an incredible thing that you have adopted almost effective immediately from your work with Lynette that I really appreciate. So everybody listening, it's such a unique thing to think about when you are in crisis or when you are in a real challenging spot in your life or career or relationship, marriage, whatever it may be. What are you supposed to learn from this? And we have had so many experiences where whatever BS we were going through in this moment, it's really great that we went through it at that point, because the stakes could have been higher if we didn't learn this lesson now and we went through this a year later. More money could have been at stake, more
emotions,
more emotion,
family,
more collateral damage could have happened.
A bigger sacrifice.
One of my tips.
Why is that? Why does that happen?
Well, essentially, because we are here to master energy and emotion, overcome our challenges. If we don't listen, I like to say spirit communicates in feather, ego communicates in sledgehammer. So if we don't listen, the universe ups the ante.
Yeah.
So one man's toothpick is another man's 2x4, and I am the 2x4 queen. Okay, so I learned most of my lessons the hard way, which is to say, boy, do I know them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I started to recognize that it didn't have to get to that really explosive point
that
where,
critical point.
I mean, money, well, we'll get more money. That's really easy. Right? That's just energy. We can get more money. What we want to start to avoid, if we can, is the crisis point where it creates separation between us, where, you know, your marriage could have come apart. And I would have been so sad to see that, because you have such a beautiful example. Your family unit is great. And you guys aren't perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect. I suggest that that's the first false belief system.
Take that off the table.
Just, you know, I mean, the key will fit perfectly. The car is driving perfectly. But we cannot be perfect. If we were, there'd be no point in being here.
Absolutely.
So again,
It'd be pretty boring.
It would be very boring. I mean, I could probably turn the volume down a little bit. And we actually can do that. We can turn the volume down. It doesn't have to get to that crisis point.
Yeah.
When we start to tune in at that subtle level.
Well, I have to be vulnerable with, I mean, the two of you know my story, but I was at an all-time low point last year and in full crisis mode. Couldn't control the chaos around me, and the balance that I was trying so hard to achieve between family and life in music, my life in music and my family, I couldn't get it together.
The focus was a struggle.
I was losing at both, and I felt that I was going to lose my family because I was a workaholic. I was so driven by the next thing, by everything that my ego had to, like, this is all self-reflection now. But we started our work with you.
But we need to back up, because you've shared some really heavy things there that we need to touch on. You know, you can't, I think, throw something like lose my family, lose this, and not share where we were at, like, as a couple, and that things just weren't.
Yeah.
You know, we weren't jiving. We weren't in balance. We were trying to keep the pieces together. We had a new baby. Anytime you include, and anyone out there with children know this, anytime you add another member, whether it be a cat, a dog, a child, like, obviously child raises the stakes a lot higher, but anytime you introduce a new being into your space, there's going to be some growth and some adjustment and some moving around. And there was a lot.
I want to address the losing part. I think it's really important also that we have another false belief system drop, which is that the idea that we can lose, that we can fail. We can't.
Yeah.
We literally can't. And I think...
What do you mean?
Well, we can't
It's
lose.
only a
It's
failure
a concept.
if you don't learn from the mistake.
Exactly, right? It's not what happens to you that matters. It's what you do with it. So even if your marriage had come to an end, you still would have... Exactly. It doesn't make you a failure. We can't screw this up. And I also think it's very important to start to recognize, as you guys have begun to, which has enabled you to see the change, is that divine grace never takes us anywhere that it can't guide us or protect us. Yeah. And whatever you have on your plate, if you know how to manage it correctly and you don't have energy leaks, you guys know I call them energy leaks, then you can manage it if you have the correct tools.
Right. Yeah.
So let's let go of failure. Let's let go of losing. And also you were saying, you're a workaholic. That's an addiction. And it's essentially one of our maladaptive coping mechanisms. So when we've got a feeling of frustration or lack of control in one area of our life, we tend to gravitate to something else in an attempt to stabilize ourselves. Yeah. So again, no criticism of self. It's just where we're at, what we're doing, and to recognize that it's all happening in divine order.
And also as we process and go back to what was happening within our marriage, there were reasons that you didn't, maybe weren't drawn to come home, and that wasn't your first thing. It's like when you came home, you had a really needy wife who wasn't fulfilling herself at all and was looking to you to do that, and then set you up to fail because you can't fulfill me the way I can. So it's my job to take care of me first, and learning that process, like anytime, and really tuning into, feelings, as far as it got to the point where anytime I learned in the process, and this was straight out the gate, like anytime I was feeling needy, whiny, clingy, neglected, left behind, any of those feelings triggered me to think, okay, what does Cece need from Cecilia?
We have to let go of the concept that to be self-centered is wrong and bad. Yeah. When we're in a really self-centered state or narcissistic state, and there's a spectrum of everything in the experience, it's actually a cry for help. Yeah. And we need to move from a place of being self-centered, which is a contracted state or a challenge and an opportunity to grow. And we want to start to move to a place that is centered in self. So we learn to start to meet our own needs, cleaning up those energy leaks so that we then have a much greater power source to draw from, and we don't need to seek it from outside of each other. So you both grew, and I want to say you both grew to the point where you were presented with this new crisis. Yeah. You embraced it. You were brave. You were courageous. You walked right into the fire. And as a result, you were able to shift that power balance. Yeah. We are taught to seek it outside of us, and it isn't out there. It's in here. Yeah. So when you did that, you no longer needed to drain each other. You were running because you didn't know what to do. And it wasn't that your heart wasn't there. I mean, you two love each other so much. More it wasn't there. It's just we get frustrated and when we feel like we want to give up. Yeah. And then when you turn that power around, you can now learn how to support each other. And instead of draining, we start, it takes two to tango. Yeah. Instead of draining, we start to support each other in our growth and into sustainability, which is what you guys are experiencing.
Right. So to back up and touch on fulfilling my needs and what I needed, and when I would be triggered to tune into that. That's where it came to a head for me, was to tune into it, listen to myself, fulfill myself. So that might mean Cece feels neglected because she hasn't had her hair done in a long time. Cecilia feels neglected because I haven't taken the time to go get a mani-pedi. I haven't gone for coffee with a girlfriend, or by myself for that matter.
Or meditated.
Carve out some time to meditate, journal, those kinds of things, write down my thoughts and feelings. And then if I did all those things that meant so much to me and I still felt lonesome, okay, then I need to talk to him.
Yeah, loving self-care is the fastest path to enlightenment. And we're not taught that. We're taught we're selfish. Yeah. And we don't understand, that the temple takes care. And you're a mom with 3 children. Yeah. And Brett's on the road a lot, and you can't always join each other. Mm-hmm. So especially for couples that are taking a lot on, and we're seeing that happening more and more, it's essential that you have that loving self-care in place. And to tune in, to listen to yourself and recognize that nobody else can meet your needs for you. You can support each other. Yes. But you have to actually take that first step yourself.
But I was in that state of, it's his job to fulfill me. And it's not, it was something I have adopted because he is a great caregiver. He is great at,
I like you didn't say caretaker. Careful distinction.
Yes.
We give care, we don't take it.
Yes.
And when we both give, first law of the universe is like attracts like.
Like attracts like.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to experience the excess. Not excess, but the
abundance or the blessings.
Right. That you can now start to work with on every level, from energy all the way up.
Absolutely. Right? And what really started to happen was Brett was drawn to me and he started wanting to be at home. And I mean, it doesn't hurt that I've like got my hair done and my nails and all these things.
And it wasn't supposed to be a shallow thing.
No, it's not. It just, I'm saying that was a perk.
Your personality changed. Yeah. And it just, home for me has always been I've always wanted it to be a sanctuary, a safe place, and an amazing place to come home to, because I'm out giving my all to everybody on such a regular basis and traveling, and that energy takes so much energy. So to come home, I always wanted to recharge my batteries, and often if things were worse at home than they were in the shit that I was dealing with outside, it was just
things weren't great at home. We would be
There's more shit out there, and then more shit at home, and then more shit at home, more shit out there, and I was just living in a state of chaos. And
we were,
and that isn't bad. That isn't wrong. It's a call for change. It's a call to evolve.
It's not sustainable.
Right. And we are not taught in our culture, and I've yet to cover a culture or come across one, and I've done a fair bit of traveling, that teaches us to meet our own needs. We're told we're self-centered if we take care of ourselves, especially women.
Yes.
And then men are taught, okay, you don't have to tune in. You can just detach and off you go. And nobody's happy.
Correct.
Nobody's happy.
What we've talked about a lot, which may just be another podcast, depending on how long we can keep you here, Lynette. But we've talked about false belief systems and breaking down those things, breaking down gender roles, breaking down kind of the patriarch of the family, et cetera, breaking down those things that
the patriarchal rule.
It's
an imbalance, patriarchal rule. So that's to say that only the masculine is in charge, and we want to understand that both within men and women we have a balance of masculine and feminine energy. And please don't confuse this with penises and vaginas and males and females, right? Okay, or vagina, as Ari would say, right? She asked me if I have a vagina. So it's like,
at least she didn't ask you if you have a peanut, because that's what she calls Leo.
No, but she told me Leo has one.
Leo has a peanut.
Yeah. So we need to understand that at a core level, for a very long time now, women have not been allowed to embrace that masculine energy. We've been referred to as, can I use the word bitch?
Yeah.
Okay, well, my new acronym is Babe in Total Control of Herself. Okay, and
Babe
in total control of herself.
Yeah, and one of the ones that I got a lot was witch. And I'm like, I am a woman in total control of herself. Right? So it's important for us to recognize that there's a balance. And essentially, you hadn't embraced your masculine, you hadn't embraced your feminine, and now that you are doing that, we want to understand
it's a much better balance.
Everything in the universe is made from a masculine and feminine, and not vaginas and peanuts. Okay, it's created out of that balance. And traditionally, women have not been allowed to embrace the masculine. Men have been considered weak and fragile if they embrace their feelings. And so this is the next level of human evolution. And you guys are a wonderful example of it, because it's changing everything now.
Which is actually such a great empowerment tool, but it's also a great secret weapon. Like, it's such a great strength to have to connect with others, to embrace those sides of yourself.
Well, and as you guys, and I promised you this, as you guys start to see who you really are, do you remember I said it's like you develop X-ray vision to understand other people?
Yes.
And in working with you, you guys are being brave and vulnerable, so I'm going to go out there a little bit for you. I said to you that if you started to take care of yourself, he was just going to automatically want to start coming home. So is this where I say I told you so?
Yes.
I like to do the I told you so dance.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it gets to be predictable. And then what happens is we see a couple like yourself and the way that you're raising the children. Okay, so the challenges that you guys face, the children aren't going to face, because they're being taught right from the get-go that beautiful balance.
Yes.
Right.
And then going forward, you guys have become wonderful models for people
also
around
think
you. I
for
mean,
The unity and the harmony in the home.
also
I think
think
I've
it
met
was,
almost your entire clan.
Yeah.
And
No, you actually
it's a
have.
big clan.
No, you haven't. You have.
No, I'm saying like, well,
Our
with our
family.
extended family.
Yeah.
But though this inner circle, yes, you had a
Yes.
really
Right.
great
Yeah.
picture of that yesterday.
Yes. But I was going to say that a really neat thing about all of this, it has really confirmed for me. And there have been times, obviously, where you're like, okay, and back to focus because we fall into old habits. And it is a
Very
train,
easily.
a retraining, you're rewriting. And also earlier on, you had touched about once you hit rock bottom. But when you do that, it's an opportunity to smash it all down and essentially rebuild.
Yeah.
And to grow from there.
And we have to hit that point.
Absolutely.
What are you going to work with if you don't?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so something that has really been reaffirmed for me is, and this is where you had said, like, Brett will follow you. You stay the course.
You will attract him.
Yeah.
We want to let go in every aspect of our lives of trying to go out and get it. And this is one of the things you guys have started to recognize. And I do this in my work itself. I don't promote. I attract. And when we understand the first law of the universe is like attracts like, when we change the attraction point, there's lots of talk about this out there right now. When we change the attraction point, your experience then begins to immediately change. And as you guys have experienced, it can be dramatic and swift.
And what I was going to say about that, is the focus. So holding the focus. There were times when it was like, okay, is this working? I'm committed to it. Let it go. Focus.
Fidelity, focus, discipline. You have to be faithful and disciplined to maintain that focus. And that's why I have to, again, say I am so honored by the company I keep, because I will walk through the gates of hell with you, but I can't do it for you.
Yes.
So this is where we have to recognize you have to be disciplined yourself. You've got to want it.
Yeah.
And if you want it, it is your birthright. You will have it.
It's really great that you just said that, and the conversation just went that way, because I wanted to acknowledge for you who's listening right now, whoever you are, yes, it's hard.
Yes.
It's extremely hard, and I still have challenges every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Welcome to the human race.
The human race. And it's so hard. So what is your encouraging or your message of encouragement to that person listening right now who just has to start or feels that there's no end in sight, and they're at such a low point, they're in the basement of all basements right now? What do you say? How do you start?
I would say begin at the beginning, and that you can't climb a ladder from the top rung first. Everything in this universe evolves stage by stage, step by step, level by level. And it does get easier. We don't want to maintain that. You guys came to a retreat on Salt Spring, and the T-shirt that you got was simple as muck and hard as
fuck.
Okay, he said it. All right. I
We
love
can
that
bleep
one.
it if we need to.
Okay, so it is very simple. But it does get easier. Like the challenges that you guys are dealing with now, you couldn't have dealt with before until you developed the tools. Again, divine grace never takes you anywhere that it can't guide you and protect you. So if you were in your deepest crisis point right now, it's the beautiful place to begin and to start to turn in. And when you do, I guarantee you, like our quote unquote chance, I don't believe in chance or luck or coincidence, they don't exist. You will find the support that you need, because we are all so deeply loved and supported. Yourself. And we're not taught to see that. We're not taught to understand it. So as we grow and we evolve, I mean, I look at who I was as a child and who I've become, and oh my heavens, that's quite a spectrum of growth, and it does get easier. So you know, we aren't given anything that we can't handle. The tools that you need are there, but the challenge is, you know, I like to say divine grace is always transmitting, always transmitting. A lot of us believe that the creative source is outside of us, or we believe that we are God and it's inside of us. It's not. Access is inside of us, but we are in it. And so the universe is not able to disconnect. We can't disconnect. So when we start to recognize that and tuning in and understanding that spirit communicates in feather. So you're going to have to turn down some of the drama, even if you just find, you know, like I used to do reverse timeout. I went to the bathroom and locked the door. Okay.
With your kids?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. I was a single mom raising them by myself. So, yeah, we do have to find those moments to just, if you can, just take a breath.
Yeah.
Just begin at the beginning. Understand that everything is as it should be. and that you are not alone. Just take that first breath, take a step with courage, and the tools will come, I promise. Like, and this is why I like to say I told you so, because don't I get my I told you so? It's predictable.
We need to get you a mug or an award or something, an I told you so t-shirt.
Well, and
it gets predictable. It does.
And once for a relationship in my just my life, when I was at that low point and knew I needed to make a change, I do remember you saying, begin at the beginning. Now, I'm so goal oriented that I was focusing so much on happy life, happy marriage,
the end
money,
goal.
awards, status, fame, fortune, etc. I was thinking about all that, but I think I really needed to shift my focus and just take it day by day and just make the best decision that day, the best decision the next day. And before you know it, you had 7 days straight of good progress, of good decisions, not good decisions of right and wrong.
Up here, out there when you need to bring it in here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want to let go of the concept of good and bad and right and wrong. And we also want to recognize that while you're doing all that work, you're doing your daily dues with fidelity, focus, and discipline, that the universe is also matching you and meeting you. We want to recognize that the universe responds to us. So don't underestimate what a small change can have in terms of impact.
Yeah.
I think you've both experienced that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Lynette,
and even touching on the good and bad, I think we so focus on that instead of it being like there's actually nothing wrong with chaos or drama or things that are happening around you. It's how you handle it.
Yeah, and good and bad and right and wrong create polarization. So I suggest letting them go.
Just get rid of it.
Just do your best to do your best, and
that's all you can
begin at the beginning, and the universe will take it from there.
Cece, and especially Lynette, to me, I think that's a great place to leave off because this is such a heavy topic and conversation that even though I'd like to talk, I think we both would like to talk to you for like 5 hours.
You have.
On this, which we have. It's probably best to just end this chapter in this conversation here right now. Thank you for your time. Our hope is to keep you here and talk about a whole bunch of other things if we can for other podcasts,
to do this again together if you're open to it. Yeah,
my pleasure.
Thank you for doing this and sharing your great insight and wisdom, and we just adore you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. So, feelings mutual.
And everybody, thank you very much for not only watching but listening to this. As you know, this is the Keeping It Kissel podcast, and please follow Cecilia Kissel on Instagram at Cecilia Kissel. I'm Brett Kissel, and together we are Keeping It Kissel, and thanks to everybody involved. It ain't no secret, the secret to this smile, it ain't complicated. In fact, it's easy to describe the perfect start to the perfect day. I could say it in a couple words. This morning, having coffee with her.